Okay, welcome to Newcastle Borough Council's Cabinet meeting. This is the third meeting now that we've had via Zoom during the COVID-19 crisis, which we are beginning to get through now. I'd like to welcome Cabinet members to the meeting, also our officers who are in attendance as well, and any members of the public, press or other councillors that are in attendance too. Welcome to the meeting. If you haven't got an agenda in front of you, the agenda is viewable on the Borough Council's website under the committee agenda section. We'll move to our agenda then. First item is apologies. I have apologies today from Trevor Johnson, who's got a hospital appointment. He's been waiting quite a while for it to get that up and running, so it's overran, I believe, so he won't be making it into Cabinet today, but if you could note those apologies, Jeff, that'd be great. Item number 2, declarations of interest. Do I have any for items on the agenda from Cabinet members? I see head nods in the right direction for saying no. Okay, item 3. Minutes of the previous meeting. We've got our minutes attached on page 5 to 10. Can we agree those as a correct record, members?
Agreed.
Agreed. Thank you. Moving then to our items for discussion today and the reports. Item 4 is our coronavirus recovery plan update. Obviously, the last 2 reports we've had have been obviously updated on council services, but we've now for the last few weeks been in full recovery mode as we look to recover not only the council but also the economy of Newcastle to help our residents, as well as at the same time helping the most vulnerable to obviously get through this crisis as best as we can with our help and with the help of others in the community and other partners as well. But this report today is focused firmly on recovery. It does update us on where we are with council services, but it's really focused on getting Newcastle moving again, getting the council stepping up its services, and also recovering our town centres and our retail centres. Shops are due to open, as we know, on the 15th of June. Our market is already open. Supporting health and wellbeing, that is an ongoing thing which we'll be engaged upon for many months as we come out of the crisis. The economic recovery, stepping up council services, as I've said, and also the financial recovery relating to the council's finances. I'm going to go through each of those sections one by one and ask Cabinet members to comment. The first one in the report is, lost that for a moment, is under 2.4, recovery, reopening of towns, centres and district centres safely. A lot of work has gone on this, and Steve's been leading this, particularly in the town centre, Stephen Sweeney, so I'm going to bring you in to have a say. Steve.
Yeah, thank you, Lily. Yeah, I think we started a sort of soft opening of the market on Friday and Saturday, and a lot of work's gone on in the town centre. There's a lot of marking, sort of social distancing sort of things, and I think there was 7 or 8 stalls open, perhaps 10 stalls actually occupied, and it was very well controlled, and it was an encouraging start. I spoke to one of the retailers on Saturday, and he said he'd sold out by 1 o'clock on the Friday. So it's a good start. It's something to build on, and we'll wait for next Monday when the actual rest of the stores open. There's a lot of work gone in place for everything, full of signage and everything people see if you walk around the town centre. So I welcome people to come to the town. Thank you.
Yes, I'd agree with you there, Stephen. Of course, not just the town centre we've been concentrating on. I'm sure Jill can come in a minute and talk about Kidsgrove Town Centre, but I'll just talk about the district centres across the borough. Well, Stanton, Chesterton have all had our officers go out and check where we need to put safety signs and stenciling, etc., so that obviously we know the public are aware of the messages: stay safe, keep the social distancing. But we've also obviously gone out there and put signs proactively to remind people of that. And obviously we've wrote to every retail business in the borough to make them aware of reopening on June the 15th. We're giving them some useful advice and some links on how they can reopen their businesses safely. So as Stephen said, it's really all systems go on this, and obviously safely we can reopen our town centres and our high streets so that businesses can get back to usual, and also the economy can start to recover. But I'm going to bring in Jill on Kidsgrove particularly, because she's been working with officers there.
Yeah, thank you, Leader. It's very much the same what you've just said. I have been helping the officers to look at Kidsgrove to see how we can get people in and out safely. I know that the residents are very much looking forward to the shops being open in the next couple of weeks. We've been doing a bit of a tidy up operation in the middle of the town. Unfortunately, we do have major roadworks onto the main street, and that will continue towards the end of next week and the week after. But it's all looking good, and people are really looking forward to the shops being open. Thank you.
Thank you, Jill. Paul, bring you in.
Thank you, Leader. Yes, it's important that we refocus on what things the council is trying to do and to get us back on track, particularly with our aspirations to bring online the Rycroft Centre, obviously Kids Grove Sports Centre.
Going ahead of the agenda here, Paul. We're talking about town centres at the moment.
Yeah, and I'm just bringing into that really, if we can just bear with me just a second, as well as bringing in the important work that we're doing in that area to feed our aspirations. It's important to have the town centre open and vibrant again. The businesses have been in pause for so long now. They want to be reassured that they're getting that feedback from the council and also the public, because it's the message that needs to go out on a unified front from not just the council, but across the range of people that interact with the town centre, including the bid, that people are reassured that we're making the provision to get that message across to businesses to open up in a safe way, that people can actually access these buildings and shops in safety and be reassured that the PPE equipment where it's required is used, and that the standardised 2-metre rule is being adhered to. And I'm pleased that hard work has been carried out by officers and the like, and the links that they've done with our partner agencies to bring this online. So I'm really pleased that this is a footstep, because it's going to be a lifeline to a lot of businesses who have been quite frankly struggling throughout this, and it's important that we get that message across. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you, Paul. Yeah, and just to echo, obviously partnership work, and I think particularly with the County Council Highways, who've worked with us to obviously arrange issues in town centre areas, which has been important because they have the highways responsibility. So I think just a shout out to the staff there that have been helping us and will continue to help us to reopen safely our town centres. Helena.
Thank you, Leader. Yeah, at risk of just simply saying what everybody else has already said, it's a very good way of looking forward to the shops and the retail businesses being able to operate safely and securely, not just for themselves, but obviously all for customers that are going to be visiting. So I'd just like to say well done to council, their teams, the partnerships that are involved in this. There's some good work that's going on, and we look forward to the full reopening of our town centres in due course.
Thank you, Helena. Yes, I think it's been a good job by all our staff, and if officers could pass on the thanks to the staff that have been working to reopen the town centres right the way through, really. And I think we're in a crucial phase now, and let's hope that businesses can get back on their feet and obviously lead the recovery for us throughout the borough. Second item in our recovery plan is supporting health and wellbeing. As we know, that's been really central. The council's been central to the recovery effort, to the support effort, sorry, and through to the recovery effort in supporting the vulnerable people within the borough, working with partners. And I know, Helena, you've been working closely on that as the portfolio holder, so I'll hand over to you to give an update.
Yeah, it's, you know, again, I can't sort of praise the teams enough, really. They've worked with full complement of staff throughout this entire pandemic crisis that we have been through and are still continuing to be in. They've been out looking after the homeless and the rough sleepers, checking on the wellbeing and support systems in place, including the temporary accommodation which is being given. You know, it's one of those that's these sort of things is not just for the here and now, that it's going to be continuing for, as you said right at the beginning, actually it's continuing for many months once this crisis, the worst of the crisis, has actually sort of passed. So, you know, again, just pass my thanks on to them, including as well to the J2 staff who were redeployed to man the call lines for those who also required help. You know, in a positive, although as it actually says that the demand for that particular service is fluctuating, the reality is that it is generally reducing, and that can only be a positive to show that the provision that was put in place to help has worked, and but it will still be there, obviously. So yeah, over to anybody else. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Helena. Anybody else want to come in on that? I think, you know, really as we go forward, I think the issue of dealing and making sure our homeless are looked after during this continues. I think the government are clear on that message, and we as the council are looking to do that. I mean, we do have, you know, ongoing complaints, particularly in Newcastle town centre, of homelessness returning and some antisocial behaviour attached to that. But just to like reassure businesses as they're opening up that our teams are doing all that they can to assist the homeless, get them off the streets into safe accommodation, and then obviously out of harm's way and safe for them, but also safe for the businesses when they reopen as well. So that's just something that's come up recently, and just to reassure everybody that is what our staff are doing. I think any other comments on this particular section before we move on? No. Okay. Economic recovery, massive area, of course, for the borough, and the borough council has been at the centre of this again, particularly when handing out the business grants that the governments have asked us to do, and certain discretionary grants have come after. Our officers have been working really hard to ensure, as it says in the agenda, £20 million, 1,700 businesses have been given that lifeline to see them through this. But Steve, as the portfolio holder, has been working closely on this, and you'll probably give us some more information about the discretionary scheme, which has been running the past week and closed on Monday. Steve. Yeah,
thanks. The latest on the original scheme is it's 20,105,136. That's bang.
Okay, Steve. You're breaking up there, Steve.
This is closed on Monday 9 o'clock, and we've had 114 applications. Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Yeah.
Okay. We closed on Monday, and we had 114 applications for discretion. Everyone, the Friday. So if you they've got 10,000, if that's 444,000, but we've got 1 million. So there's a significant amount of funding left over, and I think we'll be inviting a sections. Now, work on that is going on as we talk to decide how we're going to do that. But we haven't got rid of all money we can't hand back. It's got to go.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I think it was breaking up a bit there, Steve, but I think we got the gist of the messages that obviously we may be undersubscribed for the discretionary fund, and we may be considering a second tranche. So we watch that there. But again, as long as we can passport that money out to businesses in their hour of need, weeks of need, to help them get up and running, we can do. And thank you for your work on that, Steve, and also our finance team and everybody involved on that as that work continues. I think one of the massive things of the economic recovery for me is that this council continues with the projects that it has signed up to. And as you can see under 2.12 there, we've got the Rycroft site, which is all tied up in our Future High Streets Fund bid, which will be going in early autumn time. There's also Kidsgrove Sports Centre. We've committed to that project. We're obviously waiting back to hear on the costings from Wilmot Dixon, so we can press ahead with that project. That's a key project for this administration, and one we want to deliver. I understand it was discussed in Parliament yesterday afternoon at an adjournment debate with our MP for Kidsgrove area, obviously speaking on behalf of the borough and residents in Kidsgrove, that they want the sports centre back, and asking the government to consider pumping some funding in, which will all go down very well to complement the funding which the Borough Council has already allotted in its capital programme. We will do this project, hopefully with government support and with Sport England being involved, and the community group, of course, leading this project. Since we've met last, the County Council have had a discussion about arranging to transfer the building over to us. That is chugging along nicely, and hopefully in October that will happen, and hopefully at that point we'll be able to give the building to the contractors for them to start work on our plans to refurbish the centre, both dry side and wet side, swimming pool included. So this is a big project for us, which we want to deliver over the next few months. Despite everything that has been going on, we need to deliver it and commit to this, as we've said to the people of Kidsgrove and the borough as a whole. And there's a couple of other projects there, which I'm sure Paul will talk about, but I'll bring you in now, Paul, I think at this point.
Yes, thank you, Leader. Yes, the projects that we're heavily involved with to try and raise funds for the council in the long term. We need to keep focus on the assets that we've got to to mobilise the funds and to convert that into receipts for the council, so that it can grow exponentially over the next few years. This will also have a knock-on effect from the work that we're going to do with Kids Grove Sports Centre, the Rycross Centre, etc. Lancaster House is now nearly complete in terms of occupancy. This will have a massive effect to bring people back as well. We've got the NHS are going to be taking up a residency in Lancaster House, which will be a boost to not only just the town centre itself, but to the council in terms of revenue. So I'm pleased to see that the recovery phase is in place in terms of our financial status and how we manage that over the next few months and going on to the next year, obviously.
Thank you, Paul. Yeah, and just to echo, obviously, what you said earlier as well, Paul. I mean, you use the title of this report in your first comments, which is back on track, and it really is really important our council plan gets back on track. And as you say, bringing in that income from those investments to fund some of the plans we've got, and bringing Kids Grove Sports Centre forward for redevelopment and the Rycroft site are key before this, and they're even more key now after it. So we redouble our efforts to do that on behalf of our communities. Bring in anybody else on the economic recovery side? Anybody indicating? Steve, you haven't got your camera on, but do you want to say anything?
No, I think when you encapsulated everything I said, actually, Sam, you must have heard enough of it, because I've got nothing else to add really on that.
Okay, thank you. We'll move on to the next section, which is stepping up council services. I'm not going to read through 2.13, which lists the current situation with all the services. Just again to say, as we've done the last two meetings, extraordinary effort by our council officers across the council to do this. And you know, we are making plans to step up services, as it says in the report, particularly when it comes to J2, the museum, which I'm sure Jill will talk about in a minute. I think obviously in Trevor's absence, I will talk just briefly about the rollout of the new recycling system, which is already underway, and you know, people across the borough will be seeing their new blue bins arriving with their bags inside, and people are actually using that service this week, and we're getting good reports back from that as well. And that's another commitment which we had, which we're delivering on earlier. Obviously, due to the changes we had to make because of coronavirus, it was sensible to then make that jump to the new recycling system and give people their boxes, those bins and bags to replace the boxes now, so we can get that new service up and running. I'm sure Trevor would be full of praise for what's happened so far, and he'll be monitoring going forward to ensure there is as smooth as possible rollout of the new service. Over the page, I think, well, there's nothing which I can really talk about there other than to say that we are working on the step up plans, and we'll be reviewing those and publishing those in the future part of our back on track recovery plan. I'm going to open up to Jill now just to talk about the J2 and the museum and anything else she wants to on stepping up services.
Yeah, yes, thank you, Leader. Just basically that J2 and the museum have been sorely missed, and they will be opening by, and that'll be a phased return. Thank you to the officers working hard throughout on the helpline, and I know that they're working really hard at the moment, putting measures in place to make the buildings safe for our customers, and people are really looking forward to them being open, and I know I am as well, so just very well done. But before I move on, I just want to say thank you to the council as a whole for the way they've handled the pandemic. I know I felt very safe and secure, and feel that everything that possibly could have been done has been done and is still being done, and we've been well informed at all stages and at all levels, and I just want to say thank you for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Jill. Echo that. Paul?
Thank you, Leader. Yes, I just want to thank the services, particularly the recycling and waste services, which is very often taken for granted by the public, and I think we want to just say thank you for doing a great job. I've had no end of positive reports from customers for a change in terms of how they view the council, and I think it's important that we've managed to maintain the services in the face of some authorities ceasing theirs. So I just want to applaud the team for a fantastic effort to keep that going and keeping the services and the streets and our health clean by disposing of waste in an efficient manner, despite the challenges of lockdown and social isolation in terms of staff changes and recruitment from other areas of the council services. So a special thanks for Dave and his team for that. And just to thank other officers that have maintained services. And I think it's, you know, the work going on in the background has been fantastic to keep the council going at the rate it is, and great job all round.
Okay, and also in particularly in your planning area as well, Paul. Obviously that's been keeping us going as well, hasn't it? Really, with ensuring that planning applications are going through on time, and the stats are looking really good for that, despite what we've had to put up with the coronavirus. So well done to the staff in your planning and growth team as well. Yes, Stephen, do you want to come in on anything to do with?
I'd like to put my word and say I think the council's coped with this pandemic in a fantastic way. I think the way we maintain services and we carry on with our aspirations, I think has been absolutely superb. I think well done to everybody involved.
Thank you, Steve, and we carry that on into the future, because we're only part way through this crisis as we try to recover. Anybody else want to say anything on stepping up services before we move on? Helena?
Yeah, thanks, Leader. Again, just the thanks. I think the way that there's been a business as usual sort of approach to the many services has actually meant that not only as residents and you know, including ourselves, have felt safe, but actually we haven't seen a drop in service. I mean, certainly if I can talk about the waste and recycling, I haven't seen a drop in the service at all that's been provided. It's continued, including that if there's been fly tipping, a quick call, and they've been on it. There's been no delays. So, you know, again, big well done, but also in the way that you are continuing to be proactive in looking at the services beyond the easings as they come over the next few weeks, and business kind of does start to resume into a more normal way of life. So again, that's just my thanks to everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Helena. And I'm sure if Trevor was here, he would obviously pay tribute to the bereavement services team as well during this time. Obviously, they've been doing a splendid job, obviously dealing with the restrictions we've had to put on because of social distancing and dealing with relatives, etc. I think that's a great job that's been done there in a very difficult time and circumstances. Moving on to the last bit of our recovery plan, which is financial recovery for the council. Everybody knows that obviously all councils have been losing income through such things as their leisure centres and other things being out of use, plus just at the same time as other income is dropping from the receipts we receive. But we as a council, like all councils, have received a cash injection from the government that was detailed in the last cabinet meeting of 1.3, which is seen as taking the initial pressure off and sees us through the next few months. But there are still challenges. But Steve's going to, I believe, give us an update on that now. Steve.
Yeah, we've had the 1.3 million. Obviously, lobbying with our MPs and ourselves is still going on with government, but things are improving and things are beginning to open up now, I think, in the town centre, and the general situation seems to be getting better each week on week. We're not at the fire yet, but it is definitely on the way up, on the recovery stage that we're on now. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, and I think that point of continuing to lobby, you know, government and in with the local government family and the district councils network, which myself and Martin, Chief Executive, are plugged into, we must make that case that obviously the long-term effects of this is possibly a reduction in business rates, income, and also possible people with issues with paying the council tax that would impact the council's finances. You know, we need that money to obviously provide services going on, and we want to maintain those services and the other investments and the other programmes we've got. So I think the government are going to have to realise that at some stage. And I think the message is getting through from councils to the government and with our MPs working with us as well, that there needs to be something to address or a guarantee related to the business rates issue and potentially the council tax shortfalls that we may receive because of the difficulties that businesses and individuals are in if they lose their jobs, if they're, you know, only put onto part-time. That affects the budgets of families. And they've got to obviously put their families first, and obviously paying the council taxes is probably going to be not one of the most important if you're trying to put food on the table. So we need the government to recognise that and to enable us carry on these services if there is a shortfall in that area. So anybody else want to speak on finances? I think we've got a programme, as you can see within the agenda. You know, the monthly income loss is reducing each time we have a cabinet meeting, which shows that obviously the work of our officers with cabinet members is successful. So that's the report before us. The appendix is a more detailed look at the Back on Track recovery plan, which is a public document, will be continuing to be updated. And I'm sure at the next cabinet we'll have another update as we're further down the line. Hopefully, you know, business is back open and we're looking towards the retail and leisure and hospitality industry beginning to become open, perhaps at the time of our next cabinet meeting. So that'll be another step in the right direction. But we have a recommendation there to obviously look at this report, challenge it, give some explanation for the work that the council's been doing over the last month. And the recommendation is that we note the report and endorse the work undertaken. Do we all do that?
Great.
Thank you. Moving to our second item, which is local plan enforcement plan, and Paul is going to lead on this one for us. Over to you, Paul.
Thank you, Leader. Yes, I'm delighted to introduce this plan in front of us today. It's been 11 years since this was properly updated, and there's been quite a considerable amount of changes that happened in legal terms during that time. Noticeable things that are including like the permitted development rights that came after the Act in 2015. We've also had the community protection notices of 2014, which gave new powers to local councils. 2014 new powers were introduced for councils for antisocial behaviour, for example, and this will relate to planning such as illegal hoardings, fly posting, graffiti, and unauthorised advertisements along highways, which tend to irritate residents and the community alike. But this is basically an updated plan that brings in, it isn't complete, there will be still works and fine tuning still to be done about it, but this is our step in the right direction to give the confidence to people out there in the community that the council is serious about enforcement. Where there's areas of identified harm, we will take a dim view of that and look and seek retribution in terms of putting that behaviour right that has had that impact and harm of impacts that's had. A scoring matrix is going to be applied to this, and this is going to help to assist the determination of what qualifies for harm in the community, and this will help to then prioritise the cases in due course. A lot of the undertakings from the planning department will include things like the complaints, where the councillors receive complaints against planning applications, for example, or for where there's been an alleged breach to a planning control. We need to reassure public that we are ready to respond where there has been clear breaches, and within the law I must add that the expectations of the public may perhaps not align to what we can actually legally do, but this plan sets out the framework, and also with the associated paper that you can see with the agenda that councillors have had access to. We can actually look at the document in clear detail to how we're going to be applying the enforcement procedures throughout the council, and hopefully that the members will also have a clear pathway in terms of how we respond to breaches of enforcement. This is something that's, I think, overdue. It's needed by the council. It sets out where we are intending to go. It'll set out the message and send out the message to those who seek to breach planning control, that we're not going to stand for it. You know, we've been accused in the past of perhaps not being proactive, but I must hasten to advise we're having a strong message to clamp down on breaches of planning control. We must make sure that we do it in a fair, equitable and transparent fashion, and we're not being overly handed at the first instance just to satisfy perhaps one individual that's got a particular problem with an alleged planning breach. So I'll leave this for members to peruse and comment on, and I'll be happy to try and answer some questions should they arise, Leader. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Yeah, to support everything you've said about this, and I think it's, as you say, the last time this was updated was in 2009. I think it's that long ago. I was when I was in my first spell as leader. It hasn't been updated since then. I think it's relevant that we look at this. I mean, it's, as you say, the whole raft of enforcement options for the council and the whole sort of framework on which we deliver those is really sort of mind-boggling for anybody who gets a chance to read this. It's available on the council's website. It just shows how difficult it can be to get through enforcement cases, and that's why really the public are you know, at times often very frustrated, but at the same time, I think by reading this document, I'll see the hoops and steps that the council has to go through to take enforcement action in the planning arena. And we've got cases at the moment where we're just starting on enforcement. We've got some which have been in train for many years, some as long as I've been on the council, dating back to 2003, if not before. And I think it is a minefield in some ways, but to have an up-to-date enforcement plan is what we need, and we have that now. And I think looking forward, we must regularly be updating this. I think, as Paul, you intimated, there's more work to be done on this as we go forward and refreshes as we go forward. And I think it's we can agree this today, and then obviously take it forward and keep it up to date this time instead of leaving it for 11 years to do anything with it again. So I think it's relevant that we have it up to date. Bring in Steve now.
I think I agree with everything you say. I think it's something that's overdue. It's needed. It shows we're serious, and it's one of our manifesto pledges, isn't it? So I think I totally support it. And after 2009, it's been 11 years, and I absolutely agree with everything you said and everything that Paul says as well. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else like to come in? Jill, your mic's off. On. Do you want to come in? No.
No, thank you.
No. Okay. So, I mean, Paul, I mean, recommendations before us there, which you've moved. I think the last thing I'll say is that as we've built up to this, we've been doing a lot of work to increase the profile of enforcement, particularly to make councillors more in the loop with enforcement. And we brought out the weekly bulletin for members on enforcement issues in their ward, so that they can then respond to residents' inquiries, etc. So they can keep a tab on what enforcement cases are going on. And I get them for my ward, for the Westlands ward, and I'm amazed at some of the things that are coming forward that the council has to adjudicate on, and enforcement issues between neighbours, etc. And it's a really complex, detailed area. So to have an up-to-date enforcement plan is really the way forward, isn't it, Paul?
Yes, thank you, Leader. Yeah, just closing notes. Yeah, that the enforcement, the members protocol that you were talking about, the officer member protocol, that has been up and working now, and that seems to have had a positive a reception from members that have obviously have inquiries from residents from time to time. Having that weekly information gives them that option should they need to go further and to find out where they are in terms of enforcement action on their particular ward. So this comes from off the back of that, and that's been in now for at least a year, so that's working well. And this is the second stage that we set out to do when we made our pledge in our manifesto. So full steam ahead with this.
Okay, thank you. So you've moved the recommendations, Paul. Everybody agreed?
Agreed.
Yeah.
Good. Thank you. Looking at our agenda, item number 6 is the forward plan, copied on page 93 to 98. Obviously, this is our programme for cabinet items going forward through to the autumn. Again, a programme which we're keeping updated on a rolling basis, and there's plenty of items coming forward to keep back on track, to get us back on track with the recovery. And I will go through them page by page if any members have got any issues they wish to raise. Starting on page 95, 96 and 97. Okay, recommendation is that we agree the forward plan for publication. All agreed?
Agreed.
Okay. Moving to item 7, urgent business. I don't have any urgent business for this meeting. Item 8 is the disclosure of the public for confidential items. There isn't any of those, neither over the page. I haven't had any requests to speak from the public or from members. So that concludes this cabinet meeting today. Thank you for attending, and thank you to our officers and also to members of the public attending as well. But I will call this meeting to a close. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.